afternoon, everybody. Good evening, wherever you are. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks College Football Huddle. We still got some basketball. We still got maybe some baseball we'll talk about. We'll see about that. We'll see where the show goes tonight. I'm still suffering from a little bit of hangover from some oral surgery yesterday where they had to really go in and part of my jawbone here. And we're swollen up pretty good. We're trying to get through. We just took a little special medications. So if I get a little goofy, we'll know why. Welcome everybody watching tonight on TGI Sports Talks, Facebook, YouTube, and X page. I'll try to do that right from now on. We're also live on Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube page, as Facebook has seen, as they did to me about 3 years ago, taking Northeast Streaming Sports off the air. Facebook kills me. I know you shouldn't bite the hand that feeds you, but good God. And welcome everybody watching on Let's Talk Sports on their YouTube platform tonight as well. Great content on on both of those platforms, as well as what you see here. So quick shout out to Ralph Williams at RW Media. Specifically the Sports Corner that he does every Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern on WBVP Radio in Pittsburgh. I know he talked to the guest I'll have on Keith, one-on-one with Keith Engle on Friday morning at 9 a.m. Tim Worley, a former star running back with the Georgia Bulldogs and then the Pittsburgh Steelers, the number one draft choice with the draft coming up tomorrow. It's interesting to have Tim on, and I know check him out on the replay of the Sports Corner with Ralph Williams and Smoking Jim Frazier. DDH, thumbs up. And guys, we got some great guests coming up. I told you we restarted the one-on-one interviews again. My debut interview was with Marty Cordova, former Twins MVP, a couple of weeks ago. Went really well. Thank you, Marty, again. As I said, we got Tim Worley coming up this Friday at 9 a.m. Then we've got Buddy Biancalana, former World Series hero with the Royals in '85. Brian Holloway, former All-Pro and leader of that Patriot Super Bowl team in the 80s. We won't talk about the Super Bowl itself. Big fan of Brian, great offensive lineman with the Patriots. We've got Billy Martin Jr. on the 17th. I hope. I'm still waiting for some confirmation from Billy. Kevin Mensch, former Major League Baseball player, on the 24th. I believe Randy Lurch. I've just finished his book, and we'll have him on, former pitcher with the Phillies, pitched in the 80 World Series, and also pitched with the Brewers in the World Series. We'll have Randy on. He's got a very interesting story to tell. And then right now on the 14th of July, we've got scheduled Paul Rosen, who is a para sports player, if you will. Hockey, I think, is his forte, but he does a lot of other things. We'll have him on. We'll learn more about his career as Danny Fuller's with us. Good evening, Danny, out on the West Coast. I really don't know where we're going tonight. We're going to go wherever you guys want to go. There's stuff we can talk about. The draft's coming up, which is still college related, so we'll talk about it for one more week. Lots of talk about quarterbacks. We may have as many as 7 now go in the first round, as a lot of teams may be moving up to get the Michael Penixes and the Bo Nixes, who may have fallen into the second round. Some intrigue about the Giants might do at quarterback. A lot of debate about not just Michael Penix Jr., who we've debated about, but J.J. McCarthy. Patriots trying to trade out of the third spot, have been able to do it, or haven't decided to do it yet, probably taking a quarterback. We got wide receivers gluttoned. We could have the first time, I believe, in the history of the draft, no defensive player may go in the first round. Could be the first time in history 4 quarterbacks go back to back to back to back. We can get into that. The transfer portals are kind of interesting in both basketball and football. Reggie Bush gets his Heisman back, which, tell me, how can you do something, 10 years ago, whatever, longer than that, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. How long ago is it? I don't even know. Got to be at least 15, right? And now what they did would not be illegal today, but so we give him back his Heisman. USC got put on probation for exactly what Reggie lost his Heisman for, basically. So, and if I get speeding tickets to a year ago in a 40 because I was going 50 and then they make it 50, I'm not getting my money back. I don't like the precedent this sets. Are we going to go back and find all the game or the wins that were vacated for certain teams or championships maybe that were vacated and now they'll be okay just because the Wild West is here? I don't know if I like any of this, but anyway, we'll see where we go. There you go. Danny's talking about Reggie Bush. Now, you may have a different take on this out there in L.A. I know you're a UCLA fan, if I'm not mistaken. Not a USC fan, so you may have a different, may not have a different take than I do. I think this is ridiculous. You know, maybe it comes from I doubt it's from Johnny Manziel saying he would boycott the Heisman ceremony until this was rectified. They probably don't want him there anyway. But we can certainly talk about Reggie because I think it's a bunch of nonsense. Good evening, Rick Sherlock. Speaking of the Georgia Bulldogs, Rick Sherlock is our resident Bulldog fan. We'll have Tim Worley, as I said, on Friday morning at 9 a.m., former Bulldog great and first-round draft pick of the Steelers in, I don't want to say the year. Kenny's here with us up on the mountain. I heard the Patriots are, there's been talk about they've had Drake May in a few times, and there's debate about whether they're that enamored with him. A lot of the experts, so-called experts, say there's red flags about Drake May. The Patriots like J.J. McCarthy. I like J.J. McCarthy. There are a lot of people who are saying J.J. McCarthy will never make it. He's made a meteoric rise up the charts. There's also talk that the Giants may move into the 6th spot or even the 3rd spot to take a quarterback and create more chaos there. So we'll see how that goes. We can talk more about that as we go along. Hello, Steve Orpello up there in Perth. One thing we can talk about Reggie Smith or Reggie Jones, Reggie Smith. Get it right, Keith. So, Danny, are you on some pretty good pain meds? Because I am. Reggie Bush getting his Heisman back. Talk about your favorite team and who you think they should take in the first round here. And I'll be on, speaking of the NFL draft, I'll be on with Mac and Jack, the sports show. I'll share it since Northeast Streaming Sports is down. They'll be on the Mac Sports page. They'll be on YouTube, but I'll also share the show, the draft show from to my page as well, Northeast Streaming Sport or TGI Sports Talk. So look for that. We'll be on from 6 o'clock on. It'll be a long night with Jack Hirsch, but I'm just kidding. I love Jack. But we'll have some fun, and they'll have a lot of different guys coming in as their teams pick. A lot of the different shows that are on Northeast Streaming Sports and whatnot will all be coming in. It's a great point. I mean, it's hard. We're going to talk some drafts, so we've got to talk about individual teams. This is a college show, but we got to talk about the pro teams since we're talking about the draft, right? Daniel Jones hasn't been given many weapons the entire time he's been there, other than Saquon Barkley. I like Waller, the tight end, but the wide receivers are pedestrian at best, and Darren Waller is no given to stay healthy. They should be taking a Rome Dunez, if I'm saying his right name wrong, hopefully again. I'm very consistent there. But there's a lot of wide receivers in this draft, and you can find wide receivers other than the first round. And you shouldn't be Rome I can take. There's some who think he's a surer bet than Marvin Harrison Jr., which I don't buy. I still think that's where the Patriots should go. It's apparent now they will not go that way. They're either going to trade out of there or take a quarterback. It could be J.J. McCarthy. It could be Drake May. It could be Jaden Daniels if the Redskins, team formerly known as the Redskins, goes a different way. Hang on one second, guys. I've got to grab my water. Oh, left it on the other side of the wall here. Hold on one second. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. A little interruption. Got to have my water near me because things get a little stale in my mouth at the moment. Danny, what do you got here, buddy? Another soft and terrible decision. I agree. I mean, you know what? the NCAA has no backbone at all. But they want to go after guys like, and I'm sorry to keep rehashing Jim Harbaugh. But, by the way, speaking of college coaches, I want to say something about my guest, Tim Worley, from Friday at some point tonight. And we'll get into it with him. But Jim Harbaugh, if the NCAA wants to get something on you, they'll come after you like a rabid dog. But then they, again, it's indicative of the society we live in today. And you can say, okay, we forgive people for their crimes, and he's, sorry he did this, but he's not sorry he did it. I mean, he took care of his family. That's fine. If that's what you needed to do at the time, you risked losing your Heisman, risked losing your eligibility, risked putting your program on probation, because those were the rules of the day. When the laws change, you don't get to go back and say, okay, we'll expunge your record, unless you're innocent in the first place. I mean, think about it. In real life, can you think of a time where a law became, and maybe I'm wrong, I'm not a legal scholar, I'm just trying to use some common sense. Can you remember of a law being changed and somebody else being let out of prison because it was no longer illegal to do something they did? And maybe it's not a great comparison, I don't know. But as Danny says, it's soft, and it's the easy way out. It's the easy way out, because this wasn't going away. As long as we've got the rules in place that we have, which are no rules at all, by the way, let's be clear. There are no rules anymore. We talked about, The Blue Chips, a great movie, basketball movie with Nick Nolte. You couldn't make the movie today because everything they did was legal. So, it's a very soft move, and the NCAA should be, again, embarrassed with themselves in my mind. Danny Fuller, Redskins must keep the number one pick. Yes, Redskins. Thank you, Danny. I like Danny more every day. We'll all get banned from Facebook. Speaking of that, by the way, never mind. I'll go into that another day. Chris F. Grave, my boy in Canada. How are you? Peter Vancalana. Speaking of college basketball, or college baseball, still holds a record for most home runs in college baseball, 100 from 83 to 85. It's a 40-year-old record. I remember Peter Vancalana. If I'm not mistaken, let me see if I get this right. Oklahoma State. Tell me if I'm right, Chris. The Mad New Yorker is with us. May is so overrated on this draft. A lot of people saying that, Carlos. I know the Patriots are not sold, and if they take him, it's going to be. Listen, you miss early in the draft on a quarterback, you set yourself back 5 years. And I'm going to say, as I've said many times, I think it's 50-50 at best, the running backs or the quarterbacks that make it, as opposed to the ones that don't, with those early selections, say first-round picks. Or maybe we'll limit it to top 10, whatever you want to call it. And we should probably do some research and try to validate this. Maybe I'll do that following the draft. Because I think there's a very good chance that you're going to get as many as 7 quarterbacks go in the first round. That would be a record, by the way. Record is 6, 1983. That was the Dan Marino, John Elway, Tony Eason, my guy. We'll talk to Brian Holloway about him in a few weeks. And again, we could see a record of, and there's some really good defensive players in this draft, but you may see no defensive players go in the first 10 picks. Well, Carlos, you're the guy who wants Daniel Jones out of town. So, I mean, I would think you'd be all for them finding a pick. If they were smart, they would, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen now. It looks like Michael Penix may move up into the first round. The Giants could have taken a Michael Penix or a Bo Nix maybe if they fell to the second round. But to trade up at this point, as Rick mentioned earlier, with the lack of weapons that they have, if they miss one of these top wide receivers because they took another quarterback, especially if rumors are it might be J.J. McCarthy as well, I think it's a smokescreen myself. I think the Giants are going to go wide receiver Maybe you'll take a quarterback somewhere in the draft. Again, I keep talking about Michael Pratt, and I think this team that ends up with Michael Pratt in the 4th round or wherever he ends up going will be very happy at some point. He's not going to play right away. The Giants could do worse than that. I'm on record as saying the Patriots should go Harrison, Lyman, Pratt. Won't happen. Dave Guyette, good afternoon, good evening. Up there in Amsterdam, New York. Good to have you with us, Dave, as always. Big Syracuse fan when it comes to college sports. Today, 10 people pardoned for the drug crimes. Well, that's a different situation, right? I don't even recognize the world I live in today. Like, check that out. Danny Fuller acknowledging I'm correct on my Peter Vancalana. By the way, Danny and Chris, in case you don't know it, Pete was the manager here of the Tri-City Valley Cats. I lived like 2 miles from the stadium before I moved out of East Greenbush, New York. He played for the Tri-Valley. Managed the Tri-Valley Valley Cats, Tri-City Valley Cats. I'll get it right. Tri-City Valley Cats. For like 3 years. They used to be affiliated with the Astros, and they actually, when they had the what do we want to call it? When they started the major leagues, lessened the number of minor league teams that they had as a cost-saving measure. They said the Tri-City Valley Cats lost their affiliation to the Houston Astros, which they had for a couple of decades. But they played independent baseball. It was really good baseball, and Pete was the manager the last couple of years. He is not coming back this year, though. None of these quarterbacks should be on the Giants. Carlos, do you want to play without a quarterback? Is that what you want? Or are you sticking up? Are you now sticking up for Daniel Jones? And again, I don't want to get on the Giants totally. We can talk about these quarterbacks, right? But if you don't want any of these guys, I mean, I don't blame you. I mean, the Giants, to me, should stick with Daniel Jones and go wide receiver. Twice. But, yeah, they get it. We're not going to go into too much professional football other than it's draft related. This is sort of draft related. Wilson goes to Broncos and probably his best chance to salvage his career. We'll talk more about that Sunday, probably on the Stream of Consciousness show. Well, they can dump DJ after the season for a relatively smaller amount than $40 million. But, whatever. Milton, this is a little Tennessee bias. I don't think Milton, I don't see. Do you really think he's going to be a major league, a professional quarterback, Carlos, or is this just Tennessee bias speaking? Because I don't see it happening. Good college quarterback. I don't think Hooker is going to be, he might be a backup for his career. He's never going to be anything more than that. Tennessee, other than Peyton Manning, doesn't produce a lot of great professional quarterbacks. Ralph Williams, good evening. We just mentioned Ralph early at the top, RW Media, and specifically the Sports Corner, Tuesdays 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern on WBVP Radio. I know he had my Friday guest, Tim Worley, on this past week, so take a listen to that, and we'll dive in with Tim. I can't wait to talk to Tim about his career and also the differences. I'd like to see what his thoughts are on NIL and the transfer portal. He played for the greatest Georgia coach of all time, at least until Kirby Smart came along. We'll ask him about that little comparison as well, among other things. Did you leave Jim Kelly off that list on purpose or drain? I just stopped talking, I think. No, Jim Kelly wasn't on purpose, I promise you. I think I stopped talking after 3. Who were the 6? Jim Kelly, Marino, Elway, Eason, Blackledge, bust, and Ken O'Brien. I think I'm right. Danny likes to give me these. So I didn't leave him off on purpose. I just stopped talking. Albany. Wow, Albany team. The what Albany team? Are we talking about the Perfect Pitch League? Perfect Game League? Perfect Pitch League. It's going to be a long hour and a half. Pain meds are wonderful until you can't speak or think. Yeah, I'm not sure what we're talking about here, Ricky. I'm assuming you must be talking about the Perfect Game League. And the Dutchman, that would be the Albany Dutchman, who I've gone to a few of their games, playing the same league as the Mohawks, and it is college related because it's mostly college players that are playing in this summer league here in upstate New York, and they're all over the greater Northeast and Hudson Valley, I believe. Paul Spada, welcome. Keith is on fire. Is Paul here? I didn't see Paul come in. Did I miss his? Well, I always worry if you've commented, Paul, and I'm not seeing it, let Danny know. And I always tell people, message me on my my personal messenger, a Facebook messenger, just in case, and I can read your comments from there. Sometimes, depending on where you're coming in from, the comments won't come up. So there's Paul Spada. There's a Dutchman. It is a Dutchman. Oh, that's a shame. It's a good league, and it's a lot of fun. Good baseball. Yo, yo, yo. Paul Spade is in the house. We were just talking about our Patriots, Paul. Looks like a quarterback or a trade, and the trade is not coming along because they're not getting offers worthy of the slot that they can see. The most interested teams that I've heard about were the Giants, which the Mad New Yorker was adamant. We don't want the Giants. They don't want the Giants to trade up for a quarterback, and Minnesota, who also likes J.J. McCarthy. So there are some polarizing figures. Even Caleb Williams, who's going to be number one. There's really never any doubt unless he pulled a Manning and demanded to play somewhere else, or in Elway, whichever you want to call it. We always talk about Eli Manning, but don't forget, John Elway didn't plan on ever playing for Baltimore and even went to play baseball to get himself out of that situation. So Eli wasn't the first guy to pull this power play, or Archie, if you want to take it a step further. But there's doubts about every one of these quarterbacks. This is why you don't take a quarterback in the first part of this draft. Just got here. Good. I saw Danny say hi, and I want to make sure that you could get your comments up. So some of the things we've been chatting about so far, the draft, obviously, we've talked about Reggie Miller. So I've given Reggie Bush now about 5 different names, which I can tell you about the shape I'm in here. We got some college basketball news, as very little surprise that Eddie has put himself in the draft. Zach Edey from Purdue, after gamely getting Purdue to the national championship game and trying to keep them alive against Connecticut. He's not surprisingly going to the NBA this year. As far as early entries, which we can take a look at if we want to talk about that. We can look at the draft or the transfer portals. By the way, Dick Vitale spoke out this week about some of the stuff. Dick Vitale, I follow on Facebook. In fact, we've tried to get Dick on the show in past years, and then he got sick, as many of you know. And believe it or not, Dickie V was going to come on TGI Sports Talk 101 with Keith Engle. So we're going to keep trying to get Dickie on. But he says the chaos that is taking place with various college teams, not various, it's pretty much all of them, Dick, is unbelievable due to 2 major factors, the transfer portal and NIL, which we know. There are reports, and this is not inaccurate, there are reports that there are over 2,000 already entered into the transfer portal. He's talking about basketball specifically. His gut tells him that there will be a number of athletes without an opportunity. That's the thing we don't talk about. And we talk about people going in the portal looking for a better opportunity. They end up with no school, no scholarship, no NIL money, and nothing. You have players every year moving to the highest bidder. Stability is putting together a roster. Putting together a roster with all this turmoil is going to be a rarity as are situations where players will be at 4 different schools in 4 years. We've already seen it in college football. How about JT Daniels? I believe he played with 4 teams in 4 years. Did he not? Started out USC, Georgia, West Virginia, and Rice. I'm not even sure he's done. He also asked, what about the academics? Do they matter? No. This is about money. There are still, and it's unfortunate because there are still student athletes out there. But it's getting lost in the fact that, and I hope to hear about it talked about on telecasts and pregame shows about some of the scholarship athletes, the student athletes that are out there doing very well in school, knowing that the odds are they're not going anywhere other than this college and then get a job. The major problem is that when these new concepts were established, there were not any basic regulations set forth, so therefore the wild, wild west exists. Well, they did try to put some things in place, and they did not work out. So, what do we got here? Love the background. Yeah, this is my football. This is my college football background. This is Boston College in Chestnut Hill. I'm trying to think of the name of the stadium now. It's escaping me. It's where Matty Ryan, who recently announced his retirement after really being retired a year already, went to school. My friend Charles Beekman's son, Josh, played offensive line in front of Matty Ice there for 4 years before getting drafted in the 6th round, I think, by the Bears. And we went to a lot of games out here at Boston College, and we had a few beers with Mr. Ryan, his father, who was an interesting character. We had a lot of fun out there. So that is my college background. So I like that stadium a lot. I've been there a few times. Keith, I think your meds are much stronger. I took one because, I really don't like pain meds. Ibuprofen is usually the most I'll take because they don't agree with my stomach. But the most recent surgery I had, which was yesterday, they were into the jawbone and everything else, and it's really swollen here, and it gets up because this one was an impacted wisdom tooth that was about to abscess, most likely, and it had to come out before I had some bridge work done and stuff. So we only got about another $12,000 worth of dental work to be done. But this one really was intrusive into the bone, and so the pain has really gotten into the root canal itself and into the sinus area as well. And it was intolerable last night. And today I went most of the day and it was good. And I had a little spinach pie for dinner. Even though it was soft, it still kind of irritated my mouth. And just before I came on the air before I went on with the Northeast Streaming Sports, I don't know what we call the show on Wednesday nights even on there. I guess it was Northeast Professional Sports. I know it's getting rebranded. But just before I went on there, I popped a hydrocodone, and I just get a little goofier, I guess. Dickie V had surgery in his voice, but he had throat cancer. Cancer of the voice box and throat cancer. 2 battles he's gone through with it now. He came back and did some games last year, and then he had a recurrence of the cancer, and now he's cancer free again, I believe. And now I'm pretty sure he's like going to a speech therapist to get stronger and get his voice back and whatnot. And he expects to do games this year. Dickie V, one of the great characters in college sports. And I remember when Dick coached Detroit. The Detroit Mercy now. I believe they were just Detroit. I'm trying to think of their nickname back when Dick coached them. In the 70s, they were independent. I followed Marquette, and Detroit was a very good team when Dick Vitale was there, and he turned it into a pro job with the Pistons and hated the NBA, didn't do well, and the best thing that ever happened to him is he ended up making a boatload of money on ESPN and ABC after that. Yes, that's why I like it. Oh, Boston. Oh, yeah, Boston College. Jesus, Paul Spada. Hello. Wake up, Keith. Alumni Stadium. Thank you very much. Couldn't remember the damn name. Cherry. It's a great area, Cherry Hill. As much as I'm not a big Boston fan. I'm a New England Patriot fan, which is in Foxborough. We've had this conversation before. You did say Alumni Stadium twice, didn't you? Oh, stadium. I figured that out, Paul. I write, or you're writing like I talk. Oh, God. Anyway, let me talk about some other news and college sports. You guys bring up some comments. We'll talk about whatever you want. Some other news going on. We talked about Bush getting his Heisman back. Soft. LSU running back Emory enters a transfer portal, which we'll talk about some more possibly as we go along here tonight. The transfer portal itself. Johnny Manziel, by the way, very happy that Reggie Bush got his trophy back. I'm glad you're happy, Johnny, because that's what we all worry about at night, isn't it? What else we got going on here? Auburn lands a commitment from PSU receiver Keandre Lambert-Smith to try to boost their passing game. I really expect Hugh Freeze to be able to bring that program back to some sense of prominence. We know the SEC is going to be a monster going forward. It's going to be very interesting to see what Texas and Oklahoma do coming in. Oklahoma's got a really tough SEC schedule next year. I expect Texas to compete for the conference championship next year. We talked a little bit last Sunday about possible quarterback competition. Coach Scarsazian has said that Cam Ewers will be the starter, but he's got injury issues. He didn't play that great near the end of the year, and Arch Manning just had a huge spring game. I wonder how long it is before we start to see some conversation about a quarterback battle there. The Titans, thank you very much, Danny. I always got you guys to bail me out. They just fired, I believe, Detroit Mercy just fired Mike Davis, who was the coach of the Indiana Hoosiers after Bob Knight left there as well. Here's our boy Chris. What do you got, Chris? Joe Bart out of Notre Dame is a giant of a young man, 6'9", 431 pounds. That's kind of skinny for a 6'9" guy. I weigh that at 5. No, I'm just kidding. Where is Joe Bart? Where's my NFL draft? What's he? He's an offensive. Got to be a lineman, right? By the way, Joe Alt will probably be the first offensive. I would think the first offensive lineman off the board, or one of them. It's going to be very interesting. You know, there's a lot of good defensive players in this draft, but right now it's really conceivable none go in the first round. Who's here? Johnny Doviak is here tonight. I don't see Johnny anywhere. Make a comment, John. Say hello. If you are commenting, I'm not seeing it. Good to see you with us anyway, John. Always happy to see our Perth people here. Right now we got, I think Kenny's still with us, and Rick. Joey Bart. I don't think he's playing baseball, no. What's happening in college baseball anyway? Got the College World Series coming up, both. And again, I don't want to get into a lot of controversy. I do want to give the women their due. The softball has been a very exciting tournament. The College Softball World Series, whatever they do call it, and the Men's World Series. We'll be starting regional play up pretty soon, getting ready for the trip to Oklahoma City and the College World Series. It's always an exciting time. We had an exciting Final Four out there last year. We're liable to see some different faces out there this year, and I think that'll be fun as well. Where was I? Oh, yeah, news. Oh, gosh. Martin, look at all these guys in the draft portal. Iowa quarterback Hill goes in the transfer portal. This is the spring transfer portal in football is exploding. The basketball portal is exploding. Who's the best guys in here right now? College transfer portal. Already, you've had Caleb Downs go from Alabama to Ohio State. These are probably the top players that have transferred so far or are trying to transfer. Caden Proctor has gone from, looks like, who is that? Come on, give me the, I think it's Missouri. Oh, no, Iowa to Alabama. Walter Nolan, Texas A&M to Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin does a great job in the portal, probably the best portal coach in college football. Ole Miss is going to be in the playoff this year. We expand to 12 teams. I have no doubt Ole Miss will be one of the 12 entries. And you could see the SEC with 3, maybe 4 picks. Possible. Isaiah Bond, wide receiver, goes from Alabama to Texas. Big move there within the SEC now. Evan Stewart goes from A&M to OU. Alabama lost a lot of guys, by the way. Just saying. As we get to Julian saying, a nice segue right there. Alabama to Ohio State. Ohio State, another team. I've never seen Ryan Day this invested in the transfer portal. And when you look at these top teams, we've already talked about Alabama. We've already talked about Ohio State. We haven't mentioned Georgia yet. They don't really get involved as much. We'll see them here somewhere, and I can probably pull them up by school. But Clemson, this is what got Dabo Swinney falling behind the curve. He will not get involved in the transfer portal. They will not get involved in NIL as heavily as everybody else is. You know, listen, I'm not a big favor. I'm not in favor of a lot of these moves that are happening. I'm not in favor of the way the NIL and the Wild Wild West, the transfer portal, where you can be a free agent 4 or 5 years in a row, 6 years, depending on what your eligibility situation ends up being. But if the rules are here, you might as well play by them, or you're not going to be able to compete. And by the way, I think in week 1, if I'm not mistaken, we get Georgia Clemson next year, week 1. Going to be a very interesting game. Georgia wins, we're still on top. Georgia plays a close one, people will start talking about, is Georgia and Kirby starting to lose it? And if Clemson wins, Dabo can say, see, I told you all along, this is the way to go. Danny Fuller, no tears for Bama here. What's the hate about Alabama football? Nick Saban's gone. And what was the hate about Nick Saban? Nick Saban, and I don't know, you haven't heard me say this a lot, Danny, as you're relatively new to our group. But I unabashedly say Nick Saban is, without a doubt, the greatest college football coach of all time. And you can't just tell me it's because he was at Alabama, because Alabama really, after Bear Bryant retired, only had a couple of good years in football. Gene Stallings was there and won a national championship and had a couple of good years. But there were many years where Alabama was a wasteland in the SEC. Perkins struggled there. Du Bois struggled there. Francione struggled there. One of the Shula kids struggled there. They bring Mike Price in. He doesn't even coach a game because he goes to a strip club after having his introductory press conference. It's not like Nick Saban inherited a wealth of riches at Alabama. But he's a great coach. Oregon football. Augustin, he's not with us tonight. I don't think he's up there in the great Northwest. Loves Oregon. Dan Lanning is a really great young coach, and some debate whether Alabama went after Lanning before picking DeBoer. Dan Lanning's a great coach. I said last year, those Washington and Denny, I don't know about you if you're an Oregon fan or just like the it's like the uniforms. Just kidding. I said last year, I love Dan Lanning. I love his passion for the game, the way he fires up his kids. And I thought in that Washington game, the first Washington game, I thought he did the right thing at the end of the game. And a lot of people thought he was a little reckless on fourth down. I will say before the half, he probably should have kicked a field goal. But at the end of the game, when he got lashed for going for it on fourth down, he had to. He had to. I like his bravado. I like the way he plays. How much he got several teams here. Boston College football's been kind of down since it's had to go to the ACC. It's really sad what's happened. Speaking football wise, the Big East was a pretty good football league, but those teams have gone to the South and the ACC and really gotten devoured in recruiting. Syracuse has not really done well, except for a handful of times. Boston College has struggled. Pittsburgh, they've had a year here and there. UConn is a wasteland again. And they were getting to be a really good football program before the Big East left them high and dry. The rest of the teams in the Big East left them high and dry, I should say. So it's kind of a shame what's happened to Boston College and a pretty rich football tradition. Paul Spida, bite your tongue. Maybe that was the fire up Danny Fuller out there. You guys are no longer rivals anymore. Danny, you're going off. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. They're both going to the Big Ten, right? Who can keep track? It'd be very interesting to see what happens with these West Coast schools playing in the Midwest Conference. Is it time to call something besides the Big Ten since there's 18 schools in it or 16 or these schools of higher learning? At least you ought to be able to count the number of schools in it. Big Ten hasn't been the Big Ten for about 2 decades, maybe longer, 3 decades. That's a great point, Rick. It's strip clubs are no longer taboo. So Mike Price, which I think we might have to dig him up because I'm pretty sure he might have passed away, should probably be the next Alabama head coach. Danny likes all the Pac-12 teams except SC. Well, now wherever they all play. Where do they all play? Some are in the Big 12, some are in limbo, some are in the Big 10. I guess the two teams, to me, again, I hate this whole realignment thing. So much tradition. And what's really sad is they've broken up these conferences. And in 5 years' time, we're going to have a super conference. Maybe the NCAA will be gone. We're going to have a super conference with whatever, 60 or 80 teams, and they're going to be broken up by region, and we'll be right back to where we were probably with the traditional regional rivalries back intact. Within the next 10 years, I say 5 years, within the next 10 years, we'll see a whole new alignment, and you'll have, 60 teams broken up in different regions, maybe 6 regions in a country, whatever it might be. And we'll be back to playing regional rivalries, which it should be, because I've said forever, I know there's a lot of money on the table right now, but between kids not staying at schools, between rivalries being broken up, long-time traditional rivalries being broken up, they're going to hurt this sport tremendously. I've said forever, college football is a regional sport with national following. They're trying to make it a national sport, and they're going to take the regional following away. Do you care really? Danny, about UCLA and Penn State? Would you rather see UCLA Penn State or UCLA Rutgers rather than UCLA or trying to think of teams they wouldn't play? UCLA and Stanford? No longer. Most likely going to be played. At least not with regularity. Or Washington State or Oregon State. You'd rather play Rutgers? I mean, again, we haven't talked a lot about what your opinion is of moving to the Big Ten, Danny. I think the fact that the Pac-12 with 112-year history or whatever it is a travesty. The fact that that tradition meant nothing to those universities. We talk about, and this is why I've had to really kind of put a governor on my hatred of the NIL and the transfer portal. Why should the kids have any loyalty when the coaches had no loyalty? There was nothing to keep them at schools. Then the universities themselves had no loyalty to the kids or to their traditional rivals in their league or to their fans. Are fans going to go travel? I'm using your school as an example, Danny. Are they going to travel to Rutgers? And I don't know how well UCLA travels. You would know better than I. Are they going to travel to Rutgers? Are they going to travel to Penn State? A lot different than traveling to Washington or Oregon. Just so frustrating for me. Trey Griffey out of Arizona had a few shots in pro ball. He's now 30 years old. I don't know Trey Griffey. Should I know Trey Griffey? Who's Trey? Little cheat. Him, I couldn't get you that one. That's Ken Griffey's son. We're talking about a different Trey Griffey out of Arizona State, had a few shots in pro ball. I'm reading about him right now. He signed a contract. All I get is a picture. What the hell is this? Oh, he's 30 years old now. Former American football wide receiver. Played college football for University of Arizona. Woo, check that out. I did not know that. I love it when you guys bring this type of trivia to the show. I love this stuff. I eat this stuff up. I try to come up with a little of it myself every show. Great job. Bo Nix. I'm not a big Bo Nix fan. You know, one thing, and again, the SEC people will probably back me up, and I hate to be on the same page as them. John DeLong doesn't seem to be with us tonight. But Bo Nix was not good at Auburn. He goes to the Pac-12, and I'm sorry, Danny, but it's a passing league. The defenses were not as good. And Bo Nix took off and had some two great seasons. I don't think Bo Nix is going to be all that in the NFL. I really don't. I see a lot of Mac Jones, who I tried hard to get behind, Paul. And I do think Bill Belichick messed up Mac Jones, but I see a lot of Mac Jones in Bo Nix. Great wide receivers, a great situation in Oregon. And I'm just not sure about him on the next level. Someone's going to have an easy road to a bowl game in the Pac-12. Well, there is no Pac-12. Anthony Price, good evening. How are you? Now, if it was still the Pac-12 and they were still a Power 5 conference, then you're right, because it would have been only Oregon State and Washington State playing for it. But there is no Pac-12 now, so they do not get a bid. And by the way, even if they stayed and somehow rebuilt that conference, it would have to have been, to get the automatic bid, you've got to be one of the 6 highest ranked conference winners. So it's doubtful, even if Oregon State and Washington State had been able to put together something by bringing in some Mountain West teams and some American Conference teams. It's doubtful that they would have even been one of the highest, 6 highest ranked conference champions. Maybe they would have been, but to me, it's a shame. Danny says he enjoyed travel games to Arizona, Oregon, Washington. No Cal schools. Won't be. I don't think you'd be traveling to Rutgers. East Rutherford, New Jersey is really nice, though, in the fall. If you can get past the smell. New Jersey smells. If we have New Jersey people, explain to me. And again, maybe it's not all in New Jersey. Newark. There's something in the air there. East Rutherford. No, they play. I think they play in East Rutherford. Where's Rutgers play? Now you got me doubting myself. It doesn't matter, Dan. You don't want to come to New Jersey. So I would think then, well, you'll still be able to travel to Oregon. You'll still be able to travel to Washington because they're in your league. And you're going to play each other since regionally it makes sense to schedule those guys every year. But, who's traveling to Purdue? Who's traveling to Wisconsin? Oh, Paul, don't. No, man. No. They can't get. They can get anybody they want at third, other than obviously the 2 quarterbacks that are gone. It won't be Bo Nix. Won't be one of them. I don't want Bo Nix. And obviously you don't like Mac Jones. Mac Jones had the potential to be a very good, not a great probably, but a very good NFL quarterback. And as much as I love Bill Belichick, he screwed up Mac Jones' career all by himself. He had a really good rookie season. His quarterback coach and offensive coordinator left. One went to Arizona. One went to head coach at the Raiders. We didn't make a real effort to bring in an offensive coordinator. We just made the defensive coordinator the offensive coordinator, which Bill said, if you're a coach, you're a coach. And that's not true. And in a very important season in Mac Jones's development, he wasn't given an offensive coordinator. He wasn't given anybody to help him grow as a quarterback. And then last year, it got even worse because Bill wanted to trade him. The owner said no. And Bill said, I'll show you. I'll just leave him in the lineup. So anyway, that's a professional story we can talk about. Dallas Turner will be a great player. There's several really good defensive linemen. You see what the defensive linemen now are getting paid in the NFL. We know they put them at a high premium. And there's some really good ones coming out of college. But I still think it's possible, again, for the first time in the history of the NFL draft, there will not be a defensive player taken in the top 10. You do seem to have a bit of a man crush on Bo, I would have to say, Paul. It's very interesting. What did you tell me you were in? Are you in Wisconsin? I don't remember now. I know you're a Boston fan. I know you don't live in Boston anymore. I'm trying to think if you were in Wisconsin. So who we got here? Marie Mitchell. How are you? Oh, Marie Ray. Another Perthite. Good to have you with us, Marie. Perth has a great showing on all of my podcasts, whether it's this one or the Sunday Stream of Consciousness or our interview shows, MLB Update. Sunday, we have a very heavy contingent of Perthites in this room at one time. It's probably illegal. It should be illegal how many we have. But welcome, Marie. Good to have you with us. Parts unknown. Paul is not giving away his whereabouts this evening. What were we talking about? Oh, let's go back to the draft. I really don't want to get into the portal. Portal just pisses me off talking about it. How do you guys see this going down? I'm looking at ESPN's Mock draft right now today. Updated today. That's the best available. So, see, that's not going to help me because that's not how this is going to go. Very interesting. If you look at ESPN and how they've rated players overall, Caleb Williams is 1. Marvin Harrison, who I told you I love for the Patriots at 3, is rated 2. Malik Neighbors, who a lot of people think, I talked about Rome. Why can't I say Rome? Adunes. I know that's not how you say it. Ranked above Marvin Harrison Jr., which I'm a little shocked at. But they've got Neighbors 3rd. Joe Alt from Notre Dame, 4th. Jaden Daniels, 5th. Drake May, 6th. Dallas Turner, that Danny, who just talked about them? Paul, I think, just talked about them. Him. 7th. Rome, 8. J.J. McCarthy, 9. Quinion Mitchell, 10th. And it's possible Turner or Mitchell, the 2 defensive players listed in the top 10 here, I don't think they're going to go in the top 10. Because I think you're going to see offensive linemen, quarterbacks, and wide receivers go here in the first round. Brock Bowers could move up to the first round, or first 10, sorry. Who else was there? I could see Fatanu from Washington could move up to the top 10 at offensive line. And you got some great defensive players in this draft. Again, we talked about Turner. We talked about Arnold. We got Byron Murphy out of Texas, defensive tackles who are getting a ton of money in the NFL today. You got Jared Verse, who played up here at Albany State before he went to Florida State and really had a stellar career there. Cooper DeJean from Iowa, cornerback. Not a big fan of this guy. Yeah, Brian Thomas, another wide receiver from LSU. Two LSU wide receivers probably going in the first round. What do we got here? Missed some comments. Boston, Toronto, 0-0 into 1. I think Toronto's in trouble here, Chris. Thank you, Danny, for that update. Paul's podcast name, I go by Biston Paul. Oh. Danny, us, Captain Dan. I think we got a little rivalry probably tonight between Chris and Paul on a different topic than college football. With Toronto and Boston facing off in the Stanley Cup playoffs this soon. All right, Boston, Paul. That's a little better. You're typing like I'm speaking here tonight, Paul, buddy. Brock going to the Giants, Anthony says, I believe, or the Jets. I think that's probably right. And I think that's a great pick for the Jets, by the way. Brock Bowers is going to play on Sundays for a long time in this league. And I think it's a great pickup, especially when listen, this is a team that wants to win a Super Bowl now. Aaron Rodgers is back. If he stays healthy, this team will have a chance. The defense is still top-notch. You got Wilson at wide receiver, who will be much better with Rodgers at quarterback. I'm not a big Aaron Rodgers fan, but you can't really discount the player that Aaron Rodgers is, or was at least, because of the things that I don't like about him personally. He's a great player. Was a great player. We'll see if he still is. Can't stand the portal colleges, college sports. Can't stand the portal, me either. College sports, the way we grew up, is extinct. Well, amateurism in general, Danny's extinct. And I've talked about this a lot in the last couple of months, especially not just with the transfer portal, which is combined with the NIL has really been, that and realignment has been the destruction of college football as we know it. College sports as we know it. It's affected basketball as well. But now with the NIL, there's no rules. right? I can go offer you whatever you want. Your son can play. Your son's a basketball player, I think, Danny. If he got good enough, he can go play wherever he wants to play. They'll offer him the most money. They can build you a house like they built for Reggie Bush's family. And that's totally legal. That's why I keep saying, if you've never seen the movie Blue Chips, I guess watch it, but it's going to look like, what's the big deal? Because the things they did here, and it's a fictional story based on some theoretically true stories. But they gave all these kids all this stuff. He was a longtime coach who was a little down on his luck, and he'd always played it straight, and he decided to go the way the boosters wanted him to go and give kids' mothers a house, and bought his father, this other kid's father, a tractor. Today, all that'd be legal. You just do it. So, the portal, no rules now, except for you can only enter the portal in the fall and in the spring. But you can do it every year of your college career. You can continue to go somewhere, tie in the NIL now, and you can go somewhere for more money every single year. Agreed, Danny Fuller. We all agree with you. Thomas is a great wide receiver. There's a lot of great. Dunez, Neighbors, and Thomas, all great wide receivers. The other kid out of Washington, too, is really good. What's his name? I love the wide receivers in this draft. What's the other Washington kid? Polk and McMillan. They got three of them in the top 12 of the wide receiver ratings. LSU's got two in the top 4, and they're probably going to be both first rounders. Leggett from South Carolina, I like. Paul, we talked about somebody, I don't think it was you, but, as I've talked about taking quarterbacks for the Patriots late, middle of the draft, Spencer Rattler's name comes up a lot too. And I don't think the Patriots are probably going to do that unless they trade out of the 3rd spot. Then they may have to take a quarterback later. But I mean, even if they trade back, they could still take a Michael Penix or somebody earlier than might have been expected. But if they were to wait a round or two, they could have, I talk Michael Pratt up a lot. But Spencer Rattler's another name that comes up as somebody who could be picked later. I know there's a lot of Patriot fans that have jumped on his bandwagon a little bit if they were to pick somebody later. You like Bo Nix. I still like Michael Pratt. And after that, I think you're probably not, there's nobody that I would be excited about. I mean, you got guys like Jordan Travis, Slovis, Leary, Milton, Hartman. These guys are going to be 5th and 6th round selections. So things have to go right if they were to go that direction. What is your name, boss? I'm just kidding, boss. I figured it must have been Boston, Paul. What do you got, Chris? Chris will stick what he's good at here. Eric McGriff, son of Fred. I would have figured that one out probably. Eventually. Gave it a whirl as a wide receiver out of University of Kansas as a Jayhawk. 61 total yards in his career. Well, listen, that's 61 more yards than I have. And you and I have combined, I would say, Chris, not knowing that much about your college football career. I'm going to assume that it's probably more than us combined. Probably more than all of us in the show today combined. Probably. Yeah, don't worry. My mouth's not working. My fingers aren't working. Nothing's working tonight, which is most days. The Jets. Do they play in the United Football minor leagues? Is that a minor league? How many professional football leagues do we need? We got the XFL is coming back. The USFL is coming back, or is back. I think the UFL is coming back, as I think Danny's referring to. So these kids can all go play somewhere. How do I feel about the Colorado 5-star player transfer saying he's not playing for clicks? I'm on record as saying that I thought Deion Sanders was going to be a good college football coach. He was really good at Jackson State. He held kids accountable, still holding kids accountable at Florida State. But I think the way or Colorado State, Colorado, God, watch out, Mike Norvell. I do think Deion wants that job. But since he's been at Colorado, his whole program building plan has been the transfer portal. I don't think that's sustainable year after year. Well, he got he made some progress. They did go 4-8, and they got off to a 3-0 start, which made them the story of college football early in the year. And I said that bubble is going to burst. I had them 5-7 at best. They finished 4-8, I believe. But they had a lot of their kids transfer out, and Deion's ripping some of them. And I don't know a lot about this particular player, but I hope they're not playing for clicks. So this is the kid that transferred out, I'm assuming. This is the kid that Deion bashed, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Anthony. Let's see if I can find the story quick. I had a story up about this. Deion. Nah, he's just talking about, again, Colorado builds roster like NFL free agency. Portal makes it hard to develop players. Of course it makes it hard to develop players. You develop them, they go on to someplace else. But you're putting your whole... You're putting everything on the line for the portal. Because he doesn't go out and recruit. Deion hasn't visited one recruit that I'm aware of since he took the job at Colorado. Doesn't mean they don't bring in recruits, but if you're Deion Sanders, yeah, recruiting is, the portal is recruiting as well. I get it. But you've also got to bring in kids too. I love Adunze, however you say his name. He's the second best wide receiver in the draft. I think Neighbors is third. I read an article that rated actually both of them, Neighbors and Adunze, over Harrison Jr., which I do not agree with. It won't be over 6 wide receivers in the first round. No, I don't think it'll be 6 wide receivers in the first round. I do think there'll be 6 quarterbacks. I think there could be 7 quarterbacks in the first round. Let's look at the receivers first. Oh, let's see. Wide receivers. You definitely got 1, 2, 3, and Neighbors, Adunze, and Harrison. Thomas will go in the first round. Leggett, maybe. I think that's it. I think you're going to get 4, 5, maybe. Quarterbacks, because there's so much talk now about Knicks. And listen, Denver was probably the most likely landing spot for Knicks until they traded for Zach Wilson. And I'm not saying that should change their strategy, but we know Daniels is going 1. We know Harrison's going 1. We know May is. McCarthy is. Nix could. Penix could. That's 6. Spencer Rattler could make his way in, or you'd have a record. Probably not going to happen. But you could tie the record set in 86 or 83. I'm sorry, of 6. Penix, Rattler. Those are, here's the thing. You're not going to get Penix. A month ago, the talk was, wait, you get Penix in the second round. Wait, you get Rattler in the third round, maybe. Rattler's probably going in the second round. He could sneak into the first round. Who knows? There are a lot of teams that are juggling back and forth. I think there's going to be a lot of surprises tomorrow night. And watch us. We'll be on Northeast Streaming Sports draft coverage, and I'll be sharing it to the TGI Sports talk page as well. I'll be on most all the way through 6 to 12 or whenever it ends. But I don't think those guys are going to be options if we're talking about the Patriots anymore. I mean, if you're trading back, you might be able to get Penix. And how far you're going to trade back. But I don't think they're trading now, Paul. I looked at Pratt after you talked about him. I like him, right? He's had some injury issues, but I think he's a really solid, stays healthy. I think he can be a solid pro quarterback. High upside, low risk. You take him in the fourth round. Maybe you wouldn't give him the fourth round. You might have to go to the third round now. Paul had 120 yards. Where'd you go? Did you go to BC? Did you play on BC, or are you just joking with us here, Boston Paul? I should have gone to the next one. Hello, kidding. You would have doubled all our yardage then. Dion hasn't made a visit and brags about it. He does brag about it, right? This is not a sustainable. And listen, I do think Dion is not necessarily bad for the kids because he does hold them accountable. Even his own kids. I remember, again, he benched his own son before the championship game when he was at Jackson State. But this is the approach he's taking to building a program at Colorado, to me, is not sustainable. Yeah, 5 at most wide receivers. I agree. Austin Martin, baseball player, not the car. Austin finally made his debut this year with the Twins. He started at third base out of Vanderbilt. Good baseball school, Vanderbilt. Learning Yankees have a big star from Vanderbilt potentially as well. Learning every position and make it to the bigs. He now plays everything. Vanderbilt, great. It is a great baseball school. Joey Cora, David Price. Let's see. There was a couple other guys. Yankees might have a couple of guys. Then Volpe. Volpe, I think, was going to go to Vanderbilt and did not. Vandy baseball alum. I probably can't put BB in there. It's going to get basketball, right? Let's just see. I'm trying to think of the kid's name for the Yankees now. It's escaping me. Boy, this isn't working. I'm typing like Boston Paul here. Major League Baseball players, 12 in total, tied for the most of any school. I'm not getting any names here, though. Jack Leiter, who just made his debut for the Rangers last week, is a Vandy alum. All I want is some names. That's all. Guess I'm not going to get them. Here are the 4. Here we go. Well, this is not going to be update. Walker Buehler from Los Angeles. There you go, Danny. I love Walker Buehler. He gets healthy. Tyler Beatty. Sonny Gray. Tony Kemp. Mike Minor. David Price, who was mentioned here by Chris. Brian Reynolds. Jordan Sheffield. Colin Snyder. Dansby Swanson. Kyle Wright. Mike Yastrzemski. Nice crew here, I'm telling you. Plus, what's this kid's name for Yankees? Good evening, Sonia. How are you? Hope you're feeling better. Thanks for sharing. What a quarterback-saturated draft. It is pretty strong until you get past, what I say. Michael Pratt at 8, the 8th ranked. So I've got 8 really good quarterbacks in this draft myself. I don't think once you get past Michael Pratt and Spencer Rattler, I don't like Kendon Slovis. I don't care for Jordan Travis. Jordan Travis is a nice college quarterback. I do not think he's going to be much in the pros. Devin Leary, Joe Milton, Sam Hartman, no. Jack Plummer, Louisville, no. I mean, there's going to be a sleeper here somewhere. There always is, but I don't see a Mr. Irrelevant here, Brock Purdy, coming out of this draft. Drake May will be picked. You're probably right, and there's a lot of red flags. A lot of red flags. Dion, nothing but clicks and likes. Not a fan. Listen, if you've watched any of the Prime mini series, I'll call it, that they've done on Coach Prime, Deion, his time at Jackson State, I thought it was going to be a clown show. I thought it was all just, pub and smoke and mirrors. He was a really good football coach. He was really good with the kids. He held them accountable. He didn't just give them a free pass on everything like a lot of coaches might. But since he's got to Colorado, I see a little difference in Deion, the coach. It's more the click and likes. It's more the, he doesn't turn off the prime. He turned off the prime somewhat in Jackson State, at Jackson State. And when he was Coach Prime, Coach Deion, he was a good football coach. But now I think he's lost his way, and he thinks this portal way is a way to build a program. He's wrong. He thinks you can't go out and recruit kids and build them because they're going to leave. Give them a reason to stay. But with the portal the way it is, as Danny brought up, and we've talked about ad nauseum here, and the NIL tied together, it's free agency every year. At least the NFL has some rules in place to control free agency. I mean, if I'm a school, I'm going to make these kids sign a commitment to come to my school for all this money and say you're going to stay. And maybe it'll stick more than college coaches' contracts. Vandy produces a lot of he talked a lot of the great pitchers. And listen, they've got more players, according to, what I just found, than any program in the nation playing in the majors right now, 12 players. Sonia's not a fan of the way Deion has pumped up those guys, clicks and likes. I heard he's trying to get Shador to the Falcons. Yeah, good luck with, Shador, there was talk he was going to come out this year and he'd be a first-round pick. I don't see it. I'm not seeing it. Maybe I need to watch him play a little more than I have. But I think he's basically a product of the publicity machine that is Deion Sanders. The clicks and the likes. And I know, it doesn't, people get turned off when you keep saying, well, there's only 2 teams that I'll let him go play for. And what if his college eligibility's up and one of those 2 teams doesn't want him? This isn't Eli Manning coming out of college in my mind. This isn't John Elway. Walker was at Vandy. Yeah, Walker Buehler. I was going through it. I love Walker Buehler. I think he's a great pitcher. And I had him picked. I think he'd won a Cy Young Award by now if he hadn't been hurt. And it's going to be a big, this isn't the MLB update, obviously, but be a big boost to that Dodger rotation if he can get healthy later in the year. Walker Buehler. You missed an H in there, I think. Tiny Kemp. You're doing a good job tonight, Paul. Paul's on better painkillers than you and I both, I think, Danny. Good day, everyone. CA, how are you, buddy? Good to have you with us. You're in a bit late tonight, but we still got a few minutes left. Spencer Jones, thank you. Jesus, why couldn't I knew Spencer was in there somewhere, and I didn't want to say it wrong. Spencer Jones, you may see in the big leagues at some point this year, depending on how the Yankee season goes. He had a pretty good spring, and right now there's no position for him unless Rizzo doesn't come back or some other guys aren't playing well. Spencer Jones, don't rush him, though. This team, we're not going to talk a lot of Major League Baseball. Let's not rush him. This team's not winning the World Series, probably. Glad you're feeling better. She's getting there. I'll be with you all tomorrow as long as you can keep my cough. I can't keep your cough suppressed. You'll have to suppress that yourself. But we hope to see you tomorrow night on the draft show. Anthony, where do you think Higgins goes? Sounding like he's unhappy in Cincinnati. Well, again, I don't know. I would love to see him come to Foxborough. I don't know. It's too bad Cincinnati doesn't want to trade up for that pick, because there could be a match there. I'd love to see Higgins in a Patriot uniform. I think it's one of the more likely places he could go. But there are teams out there that would be dying for Higgins and could use him. The Giants could use him. The Chargers could use him. Pretty much every team in football could use T. Higgins. Whether Cincinnati wants to give him up and will, when guys want to get out of a place, you've often hurt the trade potential for that player. So, Travis career backup at best. At best. Agreed. No respect for Dan. He's old school. He's old school. Can't get much less old school than Dion, can you? I like Dion because, again, there's certain things that he does, but then he's just seems to... Prime keeps sneaking in. There's two guys. There's Dion and there's Prime. And Prime keeps sneaking into Dion's territory, and it's undercutting him as a coach. He knew last year at 3-0 that team was not that good. But he played for the clicks. He played for the likes. I like the terminology you guys are using is correct. To me, I want a stable football program. I don't think you can build one the way he's doing it. Prime was a great athlete. He was a great athlete. He was an all right baseball player. As far as baseball players, his secondary mate with the Falcons, Brian Jordan, was a much better baseball player than Dion ever was. Dion was fast. That was it. Saw him play here in Albany when he played for the Yankees in AA. Had a short stint with the Yankees, a short stint with the Braves. I think his only claim to fame is getting Tim McCarver kicked off at him in the locker room after the Braves won championship 1 year in the 90s, dumping champagne all over him. Scott Kobe, very nice background, Alumni Stadium in Chestnut Hill. That's perfect. This is one of the best shots I've used this on the college football huddle in the last 2 years, and I like just the whole view of it from this vantage point and the way I cover the whole thing up with my huge body. But it's a beautiful venue for football. I was talking with Paul Spada, who's a big Boston fan as well. Scott Kobe, meet Paul if you haven't met before. Scott is a big Boston guy. I am a big Patriot and Eagles fan, but nothing else in the Boston area. Everything else is New York. I'm sorry. Keith prepared Boston Paul as a painkiller. Oh, is a painkiller from Wisconsin. Danny's all over Boston Paul tonight. The original, Chris, what do we got now? The original University of Toronto baseball team played in sweaters. Literally, rich kids with barber haircuts and Errol Flynn mustaches. I need a picture now. Chris, please send me a picture of the original University of Toronto baseball team. That's your job for tonight. I know what you meant, Sonia. I am glad you're feeling better. Paul agrees. Higgins would look great in the silver and blue. So, Paul has a cough as well. Okay. Hope you're feeling better too, Paul. CA may be late, however, ahead of schedule to beat the Heat out of Texas for the Rockies. What? Oh, Rockies and let's go Stars. That's got to be your main concern now is the Dallas Stars. Texas, we'll get into the Rangers on Friday afternoon. There you go, Paul. Scott says hi. Or Scott says hi to you, I should say. Or Paul says hi to you. We'll get it right. What school do I think has the best crowd in NCAA football? That's a great question, Anthony. of the places I've been, Boston College is great. Great atmosphere for football. I think Scott and Paul would agree. Other places I've been, Syracuse, don't like it. I don't like that antiseptic dome. I've been to Penn State, great atmosphere for a football game. Been to Blacksburg, West Virginia. I'm sorry, Blacksburg, Virginia. Sorry, for where Virginia Tech plays. Saw Boston College play down there. Great atmosphere for football. Tremendous atmosphere. Blacksburg might be the best place I've been, quite frankly. You're welcome, Paul. We're going to get ready to sign off here in a few minutes, guys. Georgia Bulldogs, of course. There's a lot. Listen, I will say this, and we'll talk to sorry, I'm having a brain fade here. My God. Oh, Tim Worley. Jesus, good God. We'll talk to Tim Worley Friday about the Georgia atmosphere. And the greatest outdoor cocktail party is probably got to be the best atmosphere in all of college football for a football game, but that's not really played on site, right? Although now will be, which I think takes a little away from that event. So anyway, I there are different places that are, I'm sure, pretty good. Danny Fuller says Iowa is priceless. Boston College, Camp Randall, Wisconsin. Never been there, but I bet you it is great. I'll be honest with you. The Rose Bowl, I would love to go to. Looks like a great atmosphere for football. The worst place I can think of is maybe the LA Coliseum because it's like a Coliseum. That's a great question, though. I think we'll have to carry on this discussion, and I'll give you guys some homework. The best atmospheres for college football and college basketball. I'll tell you one place. I'm going to tell you a place that was great atmosphere for college basketball, and that was the RAC Siena Indians at the time, and I'll call them the Indians now. They're the Saints. They don't play there anymore. They play all their games at the MVP Arena in Albany, but was a great atmosphere. Again, at the time, they were just, lower Division I. They're middle Division I at best now, but it was a great atmosphere for basketball. Loved it. Texas A&M, great fan base. Very good. 12th man, remember, in Texas A&M. That was a big deal. Ohio State and Michigan, those places have got to be great places to watch a college football game, right? Notre Dame, Kenny. I don't think Kenny's with us any longer. I mean, tonight, hopefully. That's all. Kenny's gone to a bunch of Notre Dame games. And West Point for history and pageantry. Great point. Every year we talk about going. Every year the prices go up, and I say I'm not paying it. But we still got to put that trip together, Rick. Because Rick's got a great point. For football, it might be number one because of the pageantry and the history coming out of it. Remember, there was a time when Army and Navy were the best college football teams in the country, among them. Opener loss, still, you'll be all right. You'll be all right, CA. Boston College, Duke. College basketball, Duke. That's a great one. We'll talk more about it, though, guys. That's a great topic to continue on, for sure. We're going to wrap it up tonight, though. Made it through an hour and a half somehow. Wow. I appreciate you guys, all of you guys, contributing tonight, as you always do. It makes the show a lot of fun for me. All my shows a lot of fun for me. Please check us out Friday morning. We'll have Tim Worley, former Georgia Bulldog, and Pittsburgh Steeler on the Keith Engle with one-on-one show at 9 a.m. Eastern. We'll have the MLB update at 3 o'clock that day. And Sunday, the Stream of Consciousness will be back with as well. And thank you, Danny. Had a great time with you tonight. You were the first one in the room. You win the prize tonight. Guys, have a great night. We'll see you Friday. Enjoy tomorrow's draft.